Welcome to Nerd.World History. If you're new to this channel and you like what you're seeing and you like these videos, please think about liking, sharing and subscribing and commenting down below what you think of this video. I have two other channels as well, Nerd.World Films and Nerd.World, which are very different to this channel. One is what it sounds like, it's dedicated to all things movie related. The other one's a lot more of a generalist channel, does television, cult, comic books, a little bit, cartoons, things of that nature. Generally speaking, it's cult television. If you think you might be interested in that, there's links in the description below, so head over there. And let's get started on this video. This video is a short one. It's about a First World War British weapon, which is a very, very nasty flamethrower. And that is the Livens Large Gallery Flame Projector, named after its creator of the Royal Engineers, William Howard Livens. This was a monster of a machine, of a weapon of war. There were 4 of them deployed during the Battle of the Somme, although 2 of them were damaged by German shells, so only two ended up being used. But where they were used, upon firing them instantly, it said 50 German soldiers surrendered after the first firing of one of the flamethrowers. They basically used a sort of liquid fire, a combination of gas and diesel mixed together to create a chemical which would, it kept burning. Burned at an incredibly high temperature and it would just keep burning whenever it hit, a bit like sort of the idea of Greek fire. This weapon was deployed, as I say, first during the Battle of the Somme in 1916 with Russian saps, which were basically a shallow trench, and they would only be deployed a few hours before the battle so as to avoid them being damaged by shell fire and to avoid their detection and Germans possibly trying to neutralize them. The weapons were about 17 meters long and were only good for 3 firings, but believe me, that was enough with these things. They were 2.5 tons long and took 300 men to operate them. Well, to get them into place because they were so heavy and they had to be assembled on site. Another one was used in Belgium in 1917, but that was used in an offensive, and with the sheer number of manpower needed to deploy it and with how cumbersome and unwieldy it was, they ended up abandoning it. One of these weapons was actually uncovered in a special edition episode of Time Team where they found one of them still buried in the ground in Europe. The Royal Engineers also assisted in recreating one of these weapons and test firing it, which was very impressive. It's a horrific weapon though, absolutely terrifying. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of it, and enemy or not, I think a weapon like that's kind of inhumane, but damn was it impressive. In fact, the flames of this thing was so impressive that they, as a piece of side trivia, were used as the inspiration for the flame effects for the dragon Smaug in the Hobbit trilogy. There isn't actually a great deal more to say about this weapon after 1917 because of its unwieldy nature and how cumbersome and labor intensive it was to use. Despite its actual effectiveness on the battlefield, they were discontinued and not used any further during the war or subsequently, although flame units were used extensively during the First World War by both sides, and again later in the Second World War, of course, and in, of course, other wars. Flame units were usually frowned upon by both sides. Usually speaking, for example, in the Second World War, if a flame unit ever got his tank damaged or his weapon gunked up or ran out of fuel and he was a bit far from lines, or if you were in, say, a Sherman flame tank or a Churchill Crocodile and it broke down, got damaged, you didn't get out and try and fix it, you got out and ran away, because if the Germans got their hands on you, they'd shoot you. There was this kind of unwritten rule that if you caught a flame unit from the other side, you'd just kill them. It was the same way the other way around. If German flame units were captured by the British, the Americans or the Russians, chances are they were getting a bullet to the head fairly unceremoniously. It's not excusable, it's not the right thing to do, but it's what it was, total war. These weapons were probably the worst example of a flamethrower ever created. Incredibly long range, the fire moved like water. It was like liquid fire. It would just spread over the battlefield. incinerating everything in its path, just falling into the trenches and continuing to burn no matter how wet it was. This stuff was nasty. And as the demonstration showed, it actually could reignite. The gas was, once you added the diesel, it made it even more flammable, and with the increased temperature it would reignite the gases that were being expelled from it, meaning the fire would burn for longer and hotter and spread over an even greater area. Nasty weapon. Flamethrowers in general, nasty weapons. But visually quite impressive, and to look back on in history, it's a fascinating thing to see. But as I said, there isn't really much more on it, so that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you learned something. When I only learned about these a few years ago when I saw the episode of Time Team, and I thought that was one of the most horrifying weapons I've ever seen. But bloody impressive. Well, if you did like that video, please like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. Check out some of the other videos on this channel. It's not got many on it at the minute, if you're watching this when this video is uploaded, but it is growing, and my other two channels also are still in the process of growing, but there's many more videos on those channels, so please check those out. And with that said, bye bye.